Chronic late bloomer. It wasn't until the early 2000s, maybe 2000 even, that I first came across the Beastie Boys song, What You Want. And believe it or not, the Buddha has an answer for that. In a discourse known as I think it's the Downfalls of the World, he lists 4 dreads and 4 desires that are downright primal. Ask a biologist, they'll tell you that we are wired for survival instincts. And while these survival instincts cannot lead us to a fulfilling life, they do help us survive. They do help us live long enough to procreate and pass our genes on to the next generation. And that's the primary drive of our dopamine-oriented reward system. The Buddha, in several places, including the Satipatthana Sutta and the Anapanasati Sutta, taught of 4 bases of mindfulness. And when we correlate dread with the 4 bases of mindfulness, we wind up with, we dread circumstantial peril, such as scarcity. We dread physical pain. We dread interpersonal scorn. And we dread the personal experience of unimportance or anonymity. And now you might say, that sounds pretty petty, and I'm so damn spiritual, I'm above such things. And you might feel that way, and that might be your experience, but we are wired to dread anonymity. Why? Why is that? How could that serve our survival? Simple. The most beloved people in the herd or tribe or pack get the best mating opportunities and the choicest eating opportunities, which have a direct bearing on survival and the passing on of our genetic material. Therefore, we are wired to dread anonymity. And as you probably already guessed, there's a flip side. Not only are we wired to dread, but we're wired to desire. So let's go through those 4 bases of mindfulness again and remind ourselves what we are wired to desire. We are wired to desire circumstantial plenty and safety. Physically, we're wired to desire pleasure. That's how our dopamine system controls us, or tries to. Interpersonally, we are wired to crave, to desire praise, adoration. And personally, mentally, we're wired to desire fame, importance, for the aforementioned reasons. So we are wired for these things. And we're also wired to really feel torment unless we get these things. Once again, this is not the act of a capricious deity to make us be this way. This is evolutionary biology. Think back to junior high, when, in the words of the late Robin Williams, Mother Nature tapped you on the shoulders and said, hey, it's time to shake hands with Mr. Happy. Remember, as a child in junior high, I was not popular, to say the least. Because of my neurodivergence, I was the kid who, when he got frustrated in class, would start to cry. I was the kid who, in, 7th grade, when the 9th graders beat me up and I noticed they broke my watch, little, short, 7th grader me wanted to take them all on and murder them. It scared the whole school. So I was an outcast. I was a freak. But when puberty hit me, I did everything I could to break through my social awkwardness so I could date, because my genes were telling me that all my problems would be solved with love to love. And I mean, I read books on shyness and conversation and pretending to be an extrovert. That's as a kid, as I learned to mask to avoid beatings. In junior high, I learned to mask in an effort to get love. So remember in junior high, the earnest need we experienced for kissing and for any type of sex we could get. That intense, irrational longing is wired into us. We didn't experience it because all of a sudden we believed in the self. We're wired to do that. Too many people prance about the countryside proclaiming that all our suffering is due to attachment. No, it's not. It's because we're wired that way. And yes, we can learn to let go in a healthy way through mindfulness and meditation. But if we blame all our sufferings on our own attachment, we are not going to help ourselves. We're going to increase our neurosis. Our neurosis is going to multiply like bunnies in the springtime, which is not a good thing. Remember, any biologist will tell you that there are stressors. There are circumstantial stressors, physical stressors, interpersonal stressors, and mental stressors that we evolved to perceive. It's not because we have stinking thinking. We are wired that way. We do not get brownie points for beating ourselves up. In the words of Dolly Parton, get off the cross. Someone needs the wood. We don't get brownie points for beating ourselves up. But we can improve our lives by using some of the Buddha's techniques. So the Beastie Boys talked about what you want. So, and we've just mentioned the 4 dreads, and we've just mentioned the 4 desires. I had all these great images, and I was so excited to talk, I forgot to share them with you. Oop. Once again, as a late bloomer, it wasn't until junior high when I was sweeping out the garage that I first heard the Rolling Stones sing, "You can't always get what you want." And boy, in junior high, I did not have to be told that. To learn that even, Mick Jagger felt that way was quite a surprise. When we use the Buddha's techniques of mindfulness and meditation, we will learn how to cope with the inherent frustration of enduring what we dread and failing to get what we desire. Together as a team, let us chant the Wednesday morning excerpt of Red Pine's translation of, this is tough for me to pronounce, Yung Jia Xuan Jue's Song of Enlightenment. But first, allow me to remind you that if any point during this morning's practice you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, all you gotta do is type your question in great detail in the chat window. If you're using a laptop or desktop, that window will be on the right. And if you're using a smartphone, that window will be right here. And James wrote me something. He said, "Good morning, Lama Jigme. I can't help but cry sometimes while seeing dead or hurt Palestinian children. Do Buddhists cry?" Hell yeah, they do. I am glad that you are touched deeply by the murder of children. I am glad that, you, like me, you too are allergic to the murder of children. And be something really wrong with you if you were not. Humanity like the proverbial lemmings, are sprinting to the precipice, with fascism, with late-stage capitalism driving the conditions that support fascism across the globe. Now more than ever, humanity needs people of wisdom and peace and love to act as lighthouses, so that those around them were able to avoid from being floundering upon the sharp rocks of fascistic hate and fear. I travel great rivers, cross mountains and streams, seeking teachers and masters to better understand them. Ever since taking the Tsao River road, I have discovered life and death have no hold on me. So when the translator used the word Zen, Zen here just means meditation. It doesn't refer to a sect because this was written prior to the creation of the Chan sects and then the Zen sects. Walking is and sitting is, and speaking or silent, moving or still I am at peace. Even at knife point I remain unmoved, even poison does not affect me. Before my teacher met Deepankara, he spent kalpas at... Okay, as... This is a tough word to pronounce. Kshanti the ascetic. Yes, I know. There should be an H here. Ksh is a sound you make when your boot steps in the snow. That's how I would explain that. So this is really important. What's being inferred in this passage is that the author of this text does not consider a man of flesh, blood, and bone to be his teacher. He considers the Buddha to be his teacher, even though the Buddha is dead. When asked, he said those who led him to enlightenment were simply the two sutras of the Mahayana Parinivana Sutra and oh goodness, what's the name of the other one? Let's see. I forgot the name of that. It's right on the tip of my brain. And when it occurs to me, I will speak up. Let's continue. How many? Vimalakirti. That's it. And the Vimalakirti Sutra. Woo! Okay. How many births, how many deaths? Birth and death go on without end. Ever since realizing that nothing is born, I treat fame and shame the same. So many times bad teachers shove us into sanctimonious dread and desire, such as the idea, I dread the thought of another rebirth, I desire no more rebirths. What's being taught here is that now that he has mastered the path, he is ambivalent to whether this is his last life or he gets to keep coming back and back and back to benefit others. It's all the same to him. He continues. I treat fame and shame the same. So this is wonderfully good timing because this refers to what we referred to this morning, the 8 worldly concerns or the 8 failings of the world. 8 worldly concerns is what the Tibetan teachers call it. 8 failings of the world is what the Sri Lankan teachers call it. Same idea though. So we're taught that realizing birthlessness helps us to treat fame and shame the same, which is wonderful, except we don't know what birthlessness means. So what does unborn mean? It's just a turn of phrase. It's just a metaphor. Think of it this way. As I breathe in, I notice the dichotomy, the opposites of fame and shame. As I relax into my exhalation, fame and shame could feel as if they were as non-graspable as if they had never been born. So we're using unborn hyperbolically. I moved to a mountain and found a quiet place, deep and secluded beneath tall pines. An outsider monk, I enjoy sitting still, living apart and settled, I am truly at peace. Okay, so this is really cool. Remember when you were kids, when you watched the claymation Rudolph television show every December? And we would sing the song, They Never Let Poor Rudolph Join in All the Reindeer Games. Well, I can totally relate to Yong Jia Zhuan Way because that's my journey. My journey is I was, because I'm so weird, because I'm so neurodivergent, and because that's affected my approach, I don't take a fundamentalist approach to the Dharma. I too, like Rudolph, was not allowed to join in all the monastic and Lama games. I am an outsider, just like the author of this text. But that was not a commentary on his worthiness or accomplishment as a meditation master. This man has been dead, one moment, for innumerable, I guess not innumerable, 600 years minus negative 600 positive 20, 23. Okay, for the last 14 centuries, this guy has been dead. And people are still hanging on his every word. Even though he was an outsider, which is huge because we're wired to think that greatness and worthiness is tied up in popularity and recognition, and that if we're not popular and we're not recognized, we must suck, and not in the fun, tingly way. And so it's just so liberating to know that, no, some of the greatest thinkers have been ostracized. Remember the words of Einstein. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from lesser minds. Wow. Good old Albert coming through in a pinch. Gives me the chills. Let's continue. Living apart and so I enjoy sitting still. Sitting still is a synonym for meditation. Living apart and settled, I am truly at peace. Who can forget the rap song, Got My Mind on My Money and My Money on My Mind? Yeah, that guy's not at peace. He's in turmoil. Forever trying to project what he's got and increase his... what's that term from D&D? A dragon's hoard. That's it. Let's continue. Oops, quick edit. And we will go, yeah. Anyone awake knows there's nothing to do. In a world of conditioned things, however, it is different. Giving answer up at a rebirth, one is still attached to form. You may well shoot an arrow into the sky. And this is where it abruptly ends. Okay, so we're drawing a dichotomy between those who are awake and those who are still asleep. Awake and in a world of conditioned things. So what does conditioned things mean? Conditioned things mean that it's a reference to our experience of, think of it this way, as we breathe in, we notice what's going on because of our sympathetic nervous system. As we exhale, we relax because of our autonomic nervous system. As we breathe in, we perceive things as being quite solid. As we exhale, things feel less graspable. As we breathe in, things seem dependent upon causes and conditions. As we relax into our exhalation, causes and conditions too seem to be less graspable, less tangible, less foreboding. So for those who have yet to master the two truths of the conventional and the ultimate, they're forever trying to, quote unquote, make it happen. I don't know about you, but damn, in the 80s, when the specter of the yuppie ruled the earth, people like good old Tony Robbins were teaching us the gospel of making it happen and manipulating ourselves so we could better manipulate others. Yuck. But that's what we were taught. And that's nothing new. People have been manipulative. Hey, infants are manipulative. Why do infants cry? In an effort to get their way. My late mother told the story that when I was just old enough to talk, possibly two, she was sitting on a chair and I tried to, I pull off the chair and say, I sit. And she said, no, you go sit on the couch. I'm sitting in this chair, as she should, establish boundaries. But as an evil genius, she told me later that I looked like I was thinking really hard, or crapping myself, one of the two. I looked like I was thinking really hard, and then I looked like I had an idea, and I said, Mommy, Wawa. And like a dutiful parent, she got up to get me some water. When she got back, she returned to find me sitting in her chair. So yes, we are all born to be manipulative, and hopefully we see the error of our ways and grow out of it. So one of the ways many people who turn to fundamentalist Buddhism try to manipulate their circumstances is saying, hey, man, I'm going to give alms and generate good karma and aim that good karma at the goal of taking an auspicious rebirth. But doing that, we're still stuck in the conventional reality. We haven't even touched letting go. Buddha taught that the key to an auspicious rebirth is love. And neuroscience confirms that when we have a healthy practice of mindfulness and meditation, we become more loving. Our neural pathways responsible for love strengthen and light up and grow more robust. So we come to the final couplet of this morning's passage. You may well shoot an arrow into the sky. Who could forget the rhyme? I shot an arrow in the air, where it lands, I know not where. or the death of Robin Hood. Wherever this arrow lands, there shall I be buried. Well, any good mathematics teacher will teach us of parabola, that no matter how strong the bow, how perfect the arrow, how skilled the archer, eventually the arrow will return to Earth. It does not have the velocity to attain orbit. Somewhere there's a NASA engineer laughing at me. But arrows cannot attain orbit. They will always return to Earth. Similarly, we might contrive and manipulate subtle electromagnetic phenomena. We might manipulate karma, if there's such a thing, to benefit us in a certain area in a certain way. But the energy that drives that phenomena will eventually peter out. It is not infinite. Just like the arrow will return to the earth, any magic we use to create something awesome will eventually run out. Therefore, the peace we require comes not from manipulating our circumstances. The peace we long for comes from an effective habit of mindfulness and meditation. I look forward to meditating with you after about 1 minute of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. We have each of us been done wrong by authority figures. Elitism doesn't work. Meditation is for each of us. Enlightenment is for each of us. I've spent the majority of my life studying and practicing and reverse engineering every sect of Buddhism so that you can easily and quickly become the person that your dog already thinks you are. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Let us briefly chant the concise, empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge recitations. We'll begin with the longer triplet chant. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee. Buddha's example, instructions, and students. You don't have to do this crazy hand gestures. I'm just doing that in an effort to illustrate the notes. So now we're going to shift to the more concise bookend version. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. So here's a fitness tip. I don't know if you've ever struggled with addiction, but that is synonymous with the dysfunction of our dopamine cycle. I don't know if you've ever been described as ADHD, but that means you have a dysfunctional dopamine cycle. One of the easiest ways to generate dopamine, even if your body can't hold on to it very long, is through exercise. So what I like to do is perform geriatric step back squat thrusts in the sunshine while I'm wearing compression shorts, while chanting this. And when I've done as many as I can, I like to sit down, cross-legged, and meditate. If you get a chance to do this, when the opportunity to do this reveals itself, maybe on the weekend, give it a shot. You'll be glad you did. And so now let's review the meditation instructions. Mindfulness and meditation are known by many names, including Zen, Proto-Zen, Shan, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Mahasandhi, Ati Yoga, Dzogchen, and Treksho. Despite the fancy pants nature of these names, this technique is super easy. Every time we inhale, thanks to our Thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, we're wired not to actively concentrate, but instead to merely perceive. And to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Therefore, it makes perfect sense during each inhalation to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. The only label we need ever use during meditation is this. And so as we inhale, we can notice all manner of things. We can notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We can notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, imaginings, and confabulations. We can notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. We can notice things that break our heart. We can notice things that turn our blood to ice. What do we do in reaction to that? We meditate, but how do we do that? During each exhalation, whether we know it or not, we are already wired, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, to physically relax and mentally release. Therefore, during each exhalation, it's perfectly appropriate to silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which is a synonym for relax. Come, let us meditate as transformatively as Obi-Wan Kenobi upon the toasty sands of Tatooine under the guidance of the non-corporeal Qui-Gon Jinn. So one thing about my hedonistic version of Buddha bowing, there are fundamentalists who hate that I do that. They think it's hedonistic, they think it's wrong, they think it's sacrilegious, sorry. They think that if you're too sick to do classic Tibetan Buddha bowing or classic Vietnamese Buddha bowing, then it's because you're evil and you're being punished. And aren't those people a rapturous delight? Well, fuck them if they can't take a joke. And if you have to do things differently because you're differently abled, then do it. And pay no mind to the shitheads. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist meditation, or how to practice them, simply type your question in the chat window. I check for questions approximately once every 8 minutes. So if it seems like a short eternity between you typing your question and clicking send and me responding, please do not take it personally. Welcome to this morning's group practice. If at any point you have a question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in the chat window. I check for questions approximately once every 8 minutes. If this is your first time tuning in, here's a quick review of the method we use. Every time we inhale, we are wired to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Therefore, the key to practicing mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. Every time we exhale, due to our parasympathetic nervous system, we're wired to physically relax as well as mentally release. Therefore, the key to meditation is to silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease during each exhalation. Let's seal this morning's practice with a bit of the old chanting. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness for the spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 6 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's afternoon group meditation practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.